welcome back to my channel. This is Dalgona coffee. If you haven't made a Dalgona coffee before, I'll leave some links for you, but it's a cold beverage and it's mid-50s and raining today. It doesn't feel like winter at all. So I wanted something a little bit cold, but I did add some spices to the Dalgona topping. So it has a very holiday-ish, festive feel. It's so good. Today I decided, because we are now in the beginning of December, holiday season, it would be a good idea to have a little sit-down chat with you and go over some, as I'm going to put it, tips directly from a New Yorker. I am a New Yorker. I have been living here. I've been born and raised in New York State. I'm a New York native through and through. And I've basically been in New York City on some level throughout my entire life. I wasn't far. I grew up just about 60 miles north of here, so just in the Hudson Valley. And yeah, New York is home for me. All New York. The mountains, the valleys, the city, it's home. But I have been living in the city of New York for more than a decade. With it being the full swing of the holidays right now, there's a lot of tourists here, whether it's just from upstate or a different state or a different country. New York is busy. December is a very busy month for New York, and that's not a bad thing, but sometimes I notice that people that are visiting, they're not always the best prepared, and it makes sense because this is not your home. You don't know what to expect. There's only so much you can plan in advance, and that's going to be the case no matter how prepared you think you are. But New York is a fun place, and it's a magical place, especially during December. And so I just wanted to give you some of my tips, my perspective on certain things, that perhaps you could take some of them or all of them to use, whether you come this month during the holidays or at any time throughout the year. The majority of these are going to apply. These are not in any particular order, except for perhaps the first one. Stay aware of your surroundings. This should be a given, but in case it's not, I'm going to tell you, stay aware of your surroundings. And this is not because New York is some big scary place. It's not. New York is not a scary place. It can be, I guess, but the same goes for anywhere. There's crazy stuff happening all across this country and the world, especially right now. We're hearing about stuff all the time. So it's not just a big city thing. But yes, stay aware of your surroundings, all the more when you're in places, environments that are very busy, filled with a lot going on, activities, people, a lot of vehicles, a lot of noise sometimes. It makes sense that you'll have your phone out or some other device to document your travel, right? Take photos, or perhaps look up things on a map or any number of things, but just do so while you're still aware of everything else, right? So don't be so hyper-focused on your phone activity that you're forgetting what's around you. If you have earphones in, well, first of all, I do recommend you don't have earphones in. These types of environments, again, there's so much going on. You do want to be able to not just be seeing, but also hearing what's going on. So I don't think you should have earphones in when you're out and about in the subway or whatever. But if you're going to, have only one. I highly recommend that. And that's my practice as well. If I'm going to be listening to something or on the phone, and I want to have my AirPods or some kind of earphone device, only keep one bud in, whichever ear you choose, so that your other ear is open to where you are and what's going on. It's just a good rule to live by here, anywhere. Who knows? Sometimes there's an announcement on the subway or in a store and you don't want to miss what's being said. So it's just a good idea so that you can, be aware in the moment of what's happening. Direction bearings. This is a pretty big one, at least I think so. Basically, so you can more easily navigate your way through the city. I'm just gonna give you like a quick, first of all, you wanna get yourself a map, or at least have it on a device if you don't wanna print it out, but have a general map, and I'm specifically talking Manhattan borough, just so you can kind of start to familiarize yourself with how the city is structured. But north, south, east, west, it's good to have an idea where you're going, which direction you're going, so that it's just easier for you, right? It's more efficient. So the street numbers go up. So when you're going uptown, your street numbers are going up with you, and that's north. So if you're in the middle of a block and you see 37th Street to your right and 38th Street to your left, if you go towards 37th Street, you're going south because the street numbers are going down. So 4th Street is going to be way downtown, 110th Street is going to be way uptown, 50th is going to be right midtown. So that's something to keep in mind. And then east to west will be your avenues. So the avenues go up towards the west, they go down towards the east. First Avenue is going to be all the way on the east side of Manhattan. 12th Avenue is going to be all the way on the west side of Manhattan. 5th Avenue, 7th Avenue, that's right in the center of Manhattan. And then Broadway as well is in the center of Manhattan. But Broadway kind of like swerves through the city, kind of like snakes down through the city, so that can be a little confusing. But in general, yes, if you're at 5th Avenue and you kept walking and you hit 6th, you just went an avenue west. So when it comes to attire, I highly recommend you dress comfortably, dress for comfort more than style, especially right now, seeing as it is December. Today it's a warm, so to speak, day. It's mid 50s or high 50s, but it is raining. But typically it's going to drop and it's going to get very cold. So if you're coming during the holiday season or in the winter at all, dress for comfort. My dad has always stressed this. He always said, don't freeze in style. Just don't. It's not worth it. You can still dress nice, but dress comfortably. Wear comfortable shoes. Wear a coat and a scarf. Keep your neck covered because New York is surrounded in water. We're right by the Atlantic Ocean, and then there's also multiple rivers, and that brings a lot more wind. So you want to make sure that your neck is covered. If you like to wear a headpiece, muffs, anything like that, hat, do so as well. So if you're coming from a hot climate, a warm climate, don't forget to bring a coat. And shoes, you're walking a lot. It's part of the lifestyle here. New Yorkers, our feet are pretty tough. I almost never get sore feet anymore because I'm just so used to walking everywhere. Your feet are your car most of the time. But if you're not used to that, no matter how much you might go to the gym and run during the week, whatever, once you're out and about, especially for a few days in a row and you're walking everywhere, your feet are gonna feel it. So wear comfortable shoes, maybe bring a couple pairs of shoes so that if your feet might get tired in one shoe, you can swap to another one a different day. Just a good idea for you. I also highly recommend that you have a crossbody bag or backpack as your general carry-on bag around town. So always make sure that it's completely zipped. And I recommend this mainly so that you can stay hands-free. It's just nice to not have to worry about a smaller purse that you might forget if you put it down somewhere and walk away, or a bag like a purse with a strap that just sits on one shoulder, especially when you're wearing winter coats. They tend to fall off a lot. It's really frustrating. But if you have some kind of bag, like a backpack or a crossbody bag, the messenger bags, sometimes they're called, they're not going to fall off. They're secured. They're on your body. You can be hands-free. It's just a much better option, and I do recommend, so that there's just less to think about. And of course, always keep them zipped up, just to steer away from, pickpocketers, so that they're not as attracted to a backpack where the zipper was left open or something like that. Okay, a few things to make note of in advance. You want to do some research before visiting New York City. So, first things first, the restroom. We all have to go. It's gonna happen at some point in the day. You're gonna have to go maybe more than once. So make sure you know where some restrooms are. I can give you a few recommendations just even right now. Almost every Starbucks, most cafes in general are going to have a restroom. So at the very least, you buy a coffee for it, but usually you can just go up to the counter and ask them what's the code. They'll give you the code and you get to use it. Some other options would be if Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Bed Bath & Beyond. If you see any of these in areas where you're at, they almost always have public restrooms. I say almost because, who knows? There could be that random one you end up and there's no public restroom. But I've never been to a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods that didn't have a public restroom. There's some other places as well. One specifically is the Time Warner Center. So up at Columbus Circle, there is a Time Warner Center building, which is really close to Central Park on the southwest side of Central Park. They have a public restroom up on the second floor in there. So you could always ask security, they can direct you to it. But these are the kinds of things that you want to keep in mind just for those types of needs. Another thing to have an idea of in advance is just where you want to go and what you want to do. You might be totally happy just kind of meandering about and figuring it out as you go. No problem with that. But if that's not your thing, or you think you might kind of be with other people who maybe get frustrated with that or frazzled, have an idea of where you want to go. So have an outline, a list of different places you'd like to hit. Try to plan them out in a bit of a smart way, as in, how do I put this? For instance, you don't want to be uptown and then going somewhere downtown you wanted to go, and then to Midtown, and then all the way down to Brooklyn, and then all the way up to Queens, and then back to Midtown like in the same day. That's a waste of time. It's going to be probably more expensive to do it that way, and it's just not really good time management. What I would recommend is if you have something to do in downtown Manhattan and in Brooklyn, maybe you plan those for the same day because they're both in the south side. And then if you wanted to do like a Midtown one day, or a Midtown and Uptown one day, and then a Queens and the next day, plan things out a little bit smarter so that you're not all over the place. Also, piggybacking off of that would be doing some research in advance, especially if you're on a budget, of affordable options for food and activities. There's so much to do in New York City. I think the biggest expense, I guess depending on where you're coming from, would be just getting here. But once you're here, you can really enjoy the city on a budget. There's a lot you can do, see, experience for free. And then there's a lot that's very inexpensive. And I mean like a couple dollars, like some of the museums are based on donations, so you don't have to pay a whole lot to see some of the museums. There's certain ferry rides, things. There's a lot. You could just do some research, some links that'll bring you to different like lists of things you can do on a budget in New York City that will suit any needs. And then of course, with food in this option as well, there's a lot of really inexpensive food options. They're advertised all over social media. So if you have Instagram, for instance, there's certain accounts you can follow that will show you a lot of inexpensive food options. I've actually been doing that as well on my foodie Instagram account, which I'll link below. There's a lot of places that you can get an inexpensive meal. There's a few places I can think of even just offhand right now where you can get your morning coffee and sandwich for like $5 or $4.50. One place you can get a croissant and a coffee for $4.50. So there's a lot of affordable options. There's a lot of the street vendors. A lot of the street vendors are pretty affordable. And I don't mean the ones that have the cold pretzels hanging out there and hot dogs. I'm talking about like chicken and rice, stuff like that. There's really affordable options. And then there's a lot of options in the East and West Village, a lot of really nice eateries down there. And in Chinatown, there's a lot of places to go where you can get yummy food, experience different cultural foods, and not have to break your bank to do so. And then as well, I do recommend that you always keep a little bit of cash on hand. So you may end up in different situations where you need a little cash. Not everything is credit card friendly. A lot is, but not everything is, especially here. There may be different street vendors, different like little farmers market areas, different mom and pop restaurants, or just various stores where they are cash only. So it's a good idea to have some kind of cash on hand for that, as well as for tips. I don't want to get long-winded in this video, I guess, why that is so important, but briefly, it's just best for your servers, and I don't know, if you're going to get maybe a beauty service done, I would say 90% of the time it is really in the best interest of the person you're tipping to tip them in cash. And I think 100% of the time that person or persons will prefer their tips to be in cash. So I think that's just something nice to keep in mind for them at the very, very least. But yes, always have some cash on hand. You may find that you actually need it here and there. If you're grabbing a coffee from like a truck off the, like a coffee truck on the street on the go, or a bottled water or something, you just hand them $1 and keep going. So not everywhere you're going to be able to run your card. Okay, this one is actually pretty important, even though it might not be an expected tip, but that is to always, always, always look before you sit down on a bench anywhere, whether it's in a subway or in a park. Just check the bench first, because anything could be there. You could sit on a bench that, I don't know, a bird just flew over and pooped on. Or you could be in the subway and someone had their umbrella sitting next to them on the bench, and when they got up and left, it's wet. Or, I don't know, a baby was playing on that subway car bench with sticky hands, and there's, I don't know, peanut butter swirled on it. And it could be anything. I always check. I just take a quick look, with my eyes. You don't have to get crazy with hand sanitizer and wipes and all this stuff. It's just like, if it's clean, sit. If it's got something on it, don't sit there. I have witnessed many a time that somebody would sit down or they got up and they just had stuff smeared on the bottom of their coat or their tushy. And that's just, because sometimes people are like hyper-focused to just get in the subway car and grab the first seat available. But maybe that seat's available because it's actually dirty and no one else wanted to sit there. It doesn't happen all the time. But for the few times it does happen, if you're not aware, you're going to be really disappointed or upset that now you're got stuff on you. So it's a tip. When I thought about what I would mention in this video, that was one of the first things actually that came to my mind. I was like, yeah, people need to look before they sit down, because it's like, I'm not always going to be there to say, hey, don't sit, there's something there. Like, just take a look for yourself real quick. Anyway. And lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. Yeah, ask. New Yorkers are nice. I would say at least most of us are. Obviously, it is a melting pot of the world, they say, so you're gonna have all different cultures here, and some cultures are gonna be nicer than others are gonna be a little ruder than others, or specifically Americans themselves that live here. I don't know. I mean, maybe you'll get someone on a bad day, but I would say most often citygoers are quite nice people. And that was one of the first things my dad told me when I moved down here, that if you need help, ask for it. If you need direction, ask for it. People ask me all the time for directions or recommendations. I don't know, any number of things, just like while I'm on the go. And I have no problem stopping to tell them. I try to live in the moment, calm down. If someone needs help, I'll help them. I have no problem. I actually really enjoy it. I'm like, oh, I know this. I can answer this question, and I enjoy it. But maybe you'll get some New Yorkers that are just like on the go, like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't really have time to help you right now. But again, that's not mean. That just means that they're like too focused on where they have to go. But that doesn't happen usually. Usually we'll stop, we'll chat with you, we'll help you with where you need to go. Of course, be smart about it. Don't go follow some random person, some random place, especially if you're alone. That wouldn't be smart no matter where you are in the world. But there's police officers around. They're always willing to answer questions and help. There's plenty of bodegas and street vendors and, I don't know, cafes everywhere. Stop into a cafe and ask someone. If you're in a large building like the Time Warner Center that I mentioned earlier, there's security there. They'll answer your questions. We know that there's the majority of people that we're passing in a day don't live here. I guess depending on which area you are in the city. But we know that many people are just passing through, just visiting. So it's not abnormal for us to get stopped, to get asked a question. Interestingly, there's a couple of YouTubers that I follow, at least two, but I think 3 of them just this year visited NYC. And in their videos following up with their visit to NYC, they all said something very, very similar. And that's,
New Yorkers are nice. I was so surprised that it's like all the stereotypes about New York aren't really true.
And I was thinking, like, well, thank you, because it's just nice to see people acknowledging that, you know, New York is not really that scary of a place, and New Yorkers are really not mean people. So I'm the way I am with you here on YouTube is the way I actually am. It's not that we don't have our bad days, but I'm the child of New Yorkers. I've been surrounded by New Yorkers all my life, and yeah, we're cool. Most of us are pretty nice. And that's pretty much it, at least for this video. If you have gotten to this point in the video, thank you so much. I wanted to mention that I have been very much thinking about and sort of already outlining and planning some way that I can communicate more directly with you about New York City things, especially when it comes to visiting New York City, working out different personalized guides, plans, schedules, tours. So let me know if that's something you'd actually be interested in. You can email me or direct message me on Instagram, or just leave a quick comment in the comment section below this video. But I would really love to get some feedback on that. If it's really going to be worth me creating that as an option for people, I would love it. I think it would be really beneficial for you, but then again, it's a way that I can connect more with people who are coming here in a different way, and I'm all about that. I am passionate about where I live and where I've grown up, and sharing that in a positive way with other people. So that's it. I hope this video was helpful on some level, even if not, just interesting. Even if you don't have any plans to come to New York, just interesting kind of to get some perspective. I obviously can't expand on everything right now, but it's a good starting point, I think. Definitely share this video with anyone you know that might be interested in seeing this, my point of view on some of these things, or that is planning to visit New York City anywhere in the near future or far future, just share it with them, and they can feel free to contact me as well if they have any other questions. And I think that's about it. I hope to be back very soon, and until then, take care.